Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Familia Mtaani Podcast. I am your host, Sarah Murigi, and I am delighted to have you here for another amazing conversation. So, for the month of March, we have been looking at parental engagement in education, especially through the digital space. So, our theme for the month of March has been parenting in the digital era. And we have had interesting and insightful guests for our previous episodes of the month. This is our third episode. First episode was episode 7, where we had Celestine Kanjama, a counseling psychologist from Strathmore University mentoring department, the manager. And we looked at how life was back then, how childhood was defined before the screens, before the, tap and share and everything. And it was such a nostalgic moment. This will be an interesting conversation. We have with us the manager of Strathmore University Community Service Center. So we have with us Michael Babu. Yeah, we'd love to know you. For those who don't, but most of us tunamjua, right? Karibu sana.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. As introduced, Babu Michael is my name. I work for the university in the Community Service Center, where we basically are keen on making service to society a way of life. I do many things for the office, fundraising. I facilitate scholarships for students, and I get to engage many parents in that regard. I work with prisoners, teenage mothers. I do a lot of construction work as well with student volunteers. I am a lead in the E-Msingi project. At the same time now, I'm working on officially becoming a life coach by getting my international certification. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. And in all spaces, I am actively engaged with young people, student volunteers from the university, both local and international. At the same time, I work with thousands of high school students. So on average, I would engage a minimum of 10,000 high school students a year.
Wow.
In mentorship programs. And in that space, I have the opportunity of engaging parents as well, just to understand what they envision for their kids, but also get to hear from kids and students in that regard what they expect from their parents. So yeah, that's my space.
Amazing.
Babies.
Children, babies.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to know, because for this episode, we are really looking at the missing link in the digital space. So I mentioned when we were starting, mimi ni Gen Z, guys. Sijui kama wewe ni...
Mimi ni certified millennial.
Wewe, clock it for the millennial. So this is Babu, a millennial. Sijui tuongeze hiyo kwa description. But we're looking at the missing link. You've interacted with teenagers, teenage moms, people in prisons, parents, as you've mentioned, student volunteers.
Yeah.
And for the digital space, we're looking at what is the gap between these different groups of people across the generations. And why are we looking at the gap? Because as we mentioned in episode 7, that there's increasing awareness, or there's increasing engagement in the digital space, especially for the young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta, may know your phone a bit more than you do.
Yeah.
And because we are exposed to the internet, to the digital space, we may be interacting with so much information that our parents do not know.
For sure.
And if they do not know, that's a potential threat that I may be exposed to something harmful and my parent is not aware. And when they are aware of it, it may be difficult to deal with it, because growing up, we did not have this as a problem. I'm quoting a statement I had.
We had other problems.
We had other problems.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the missing link, we really want to see how have the different generations, that is Gen Millennials, the ones before them, but yeah,
Gen X.
Gen X, oh yes, Gen X, Gen
boomers,
Millennials, kuna baby boomers, and then there's the current young people. Najua pia millennials ni young people, but kuna Gen Z, Gen Alpha, Gen Beta. What is the engagement of each of these generations with the digital space, and what's the difference? Is there a gap between them? Because I feel, as a young person, there's a difference between my engagement with the digital space and my parents. My mom's know-how of it's sufficient, but I feel like I may be exposed to many more things which, if not guided, especially for, I think teenagers would be vulnerable to the threats of this missing link. So I think I'll start by just finding out, have you observed this link that I suppose there is? And if at all it's there, what are the potential threats?
So I think all generations were exposed to technology, right? But different types of technology, right?
Yeah.
Because at times we have reduced technology to the digital space, but it's quite vast.
Yes.
But going back to the digital space itself, I think the main thing is accessibility and availability, because those two things were hard to find 15, 20, 30, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And that informs the level of engagement that is there. So, for example, mobile phones were a luxury in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And now they're a must-have. If you look at the numbers in terms of accessibility to mobile phones as a country or as a continent,
Yeah.
the numbers have increased significantly. Why? Because you have more manufacturers, you have cheaper phones, but then you had a limited range of phones, meaning they were more expensive. So the more availability, the more the supply, the cheaper the product, right?
Yeah.
So you have, again, China has introduced mass production of items. So with that, then it's easy to find a 2-year-old being given their own phone.
Yes,
20
their
years ago,
tablets.
that would not happen
Yeah.
in many homes.
Yeah.
In many homes. So in that regard, then for sure, the interaction with the digital space will vary. When you think about it, AI did not exist 10 years ago. So if I had, or it did exist, but maybe it was not accessible as it was. So probably it was there.
Yeah.
But what we have now as the ChatGPTs, the notebook LMs, the clouds are not accessible years back. So, and that again informs the interaction, because this tool is coming to you when you're at your prime. You have access to technology. Wi-Fi again is accessible.
Yeah.
Bundles are cheaper. You have Starlink,
Yeah.
which is introducing different dynamics to it.
Yeah.
So when you look at it from a contextual point of view, then there has to be a variation, and it is actually expected.
Yeah.
I think it is abnormal to expect there to be a standard way of dealing with technology or the digital space in that regard. And there has to be pushback.
Yes.
Why? Because how a boomer, how a Gen X will see the world is not how a Gen Z beta will see the world, for example. Right? So for a beta or a Gen Alpha who grew up with Cocomelon, they may not understand why their grandmother may be singing to them, for example. Because, they're used to seeing it on TV.
Yes.
You have kids living in different places having American accents.
Yeah.
For us, we used to acquire the accent of either our house help or your grandmother, because that's the one. He or she was the one who was teaching you, right? So the gap for me is normal. The question is, how do we work with the strengths of each gap? Because every generation has its own value proposition to offer. And if we focus mainly on the differences and not the similarities, and the similarities, I mean that we all want to use technology, but we will use it differently. So what can we learn from one another? Then we will feel that there are insufficiencies that, for me, in my view, are not, again, and I remember we had this conversation, case in point, you have a young person who has grown up with TikTok or Instagram.
Yes.
Now, in my world, when I was growing up, the places of versions of comparison would only be my neighbors. So I really didn't know what's happening to someone in my neighbors, like in Runda. I didn't know. But now it's so easy for me to know what's happening in Tanzania, to know what is happening in Uganda, how people are living large in Uganda. Whether it's true or false, I don't know. Right? So again, if comparison is the thief of joy, then the thief has grown bigger.
Has grown closer.
In your generation.
Yes.
Then
It's right on your hand.
Exactly. So, and that will also impact or influence how you see the world.
Yeah.
Right. So there are many dynamics to it, but as we continue with the conversation, we'll dive deeper into that. But I think in that regard, we just have to acknowledge the fact that every generation will interact with the digital space differently.
Yes.
And that's fine.
I love that you pointed out the dynamics of the different generations in digital engagement. And our focus for this parenting episode, we really, parents, we're here for you. Yeah? We there's a parent who has entrusted a mobile phone, an iPad, a laptop to their child.
Yeah.
They are 5-year-old, they are 10-year-old, they are 15-year-old youth. I think by now it's really a common, if not very popular asset.
Yeah.
Maybe even to lists daily or basic needs for a Gen Z right now. Phone and Wi-Fi might be number 4 and 5
It is.
in the list after food, clothing, and shelter.
At times in some houses, even Wi-Fi is superior to
Right.
food, but anyway.
So I think now the concern is that I have entrusted this phone or my child to the world, because by giving you this mobile phone, I give you access to the world. You know what is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
There is so much content coming in on a daily basis at a very rapid rate, you know. And the parent is concerned, I don't know what you are exposed to. As much as there is limitations or restrictions that I can put, there's some parental well-being measures for social media or for apps, but still that doesn't limit how much the children or teenagers access on their phones.
Yeah.
So the question for the parent is there a way for me to safeguard my child or my teenager or my youth from the potential threats and harms that are brought about by the close access to the world through social media?
We have to admit that it's social media, the digital space makes work very easy
Yes.
for parents who want to put in effort.
Yes.
Right? It's easier to put a video on YouTube than it is to carry your baby on the back and walk with them and sing to them for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So again, when you think about it, during COVID, we had there are many cases of people getting frustrated in the house because they didn't know how to converse, they didn't know which games to play, they didn't know what to do.
How to interact.
How to interact, exactly,
Yeah.
because it demands effort.
Yes.
It demands effort. So it's very easy to give someone a phone
Than
and
to-
tell them deal with it, other than face the mirror and realize that there is a gap. There's some skills that you've lost over time. And even with us in our volunteering program, we usually have no phone Saturdays. So we tell the volunteers on Saturdays when we are out there, then we have to confiscate the phones for the day.
Wow.
And the first time we did it, it was a huge struggle. And I remember one of the students told me, nipatie tu sim kadi yangu niguse.
I feel
because
too connected.
I feel, yes, I need to connect to something I am used to.
Yeah.
But over time, they have learned to appreciate that they will build more skills in having conversations, in going to a center and not taking more photos than interacting with the kids.
Yeah.
Because then you may be serving the people who are not even there, trying to capture photos for them to see how good you are, rather than actually
You miss
spending
the opportunity.
time with the kids. And this happens. You know, people go out for lunch and they will find 4 or 5 people on their phones.
Yeah.
Yet they went for a lunch together.
Taking photos, posting.
Not even
location.
the food, but they're just there.
Yeah.
But the 5 of them are not communicating, right? Because
And
it
it's
takes
sad.
it is sad, but
Yeah.
it takes work to have good conversation. So it's easy to pretend.
Yeah.
The illusion, the perception that you're together is easier than the actual fact that you're actually not together, that you are alone in a group, if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
That all of you are there, but all of you are
You're
not
far
there.
apart.
Exactly.
Close by but far apart.
So with parents, that's the same task.
Yeah.
It demands a lot for a parent to limit access to their kids in this day and age.
Yeah.
And I believe most of them believe that they're doing this in the best interest of the child. You know, you're trying to equip the child with the necessary skills to make sure that they're not lagging behind digitally.
Yes.
But in some cases, you just know that the parent is not willing to put in the work, to spend time, go for an afternoon walk with the child and converse with them. So it is easier to tell them, I'll buy you a PlayStation and engage. Now, everything, I remember talking to some parents 3 years ago, and I was telling them that if you don't talk to your child, there is someone else talking to them.
Yes. There's no vacuum there.
There is no vacuum.
Nature. There's a proverb that says nature abhors vacuum.
Exactly.
If you don't do it, something or someone
something will occupy. Yeah.
Yes.
So for example, there's a time where Gengeton music was really, present in our
When I was in class
in our-
7.
exactly. It was present and it had its own narrative and its own message.
Yeah.
And I remember telling parents that if it's either you are talking to them,
Yes.
or it is this clan, this gang that is talking to a child. Now, whoever talks to them more will influence their worldview.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're wondering why am I seeing a different version of my child? But the reality is you're not engaging the child in the first place. So you're talking to them once, giving them wise counsel, but there is someone else making them feel special every day. Definitely, I will listen to whoever talks to me regularly. So for parents, again with the demands of this day and age, because even parents are guilty of being entrapped by the demand of social media. You spend a lot of time on WhatsApp, a lot of time on TikTok. Your parent is following you on Instagram. And my mind tried doing that and I follow back. Because hapana kila mtu na space yake, right? But that's how it is. So and human beings, we have a natural inclination of doing what is easy. Right, because whatever will demand more input from us, we will actually leave it unless it is necessary. And social media gives us that advantage. It gives us of seeming that we are connecting together when we are not. It creates an illusion that I have many friends when I actually don't put in the work to have friends. It can create an illusion where I'm learning, but I'm watching even music and dance.
You learn and it disappears.
Exactly. Even music and dance nowadays, there are very few people who listen to an entire song. Many people listen to a segment of the song that is in tune with their dancing skills or whatever. So even the time to listen something for 3 minutes is becoming harder and harder to do. So now when it comes to a human being that you need to take care of, a 14-year-old with opinions and worldviews, and then you have to engage them consistently to build a relationship, then there has to be a very good intention and a willingness to put in the work, in my view. So you can actually optimize, you can actually work with the digital space to make that work for you, depending on how your level of knowledge with regards to the digital space. And many people are doing it. I saw a video in China where kids were playing a maths quiz, but it was so engaging that because they were, it's like it's like a tug of war, and the more questions you answer, the more you're pulling towards your side. But you could tell that the kids were so engrossed. Exactly. And with that, the parent can tap into, but it is different to me, what do they call it, doom scrolling. Just going through and watching videos, and you see these people, this content is also, they have psychologists behind it, so they know how to make it attractive. Access to WhatsApp is limited to 13 years in their fine print. Ideally, a child above 13 is supposed to use WhatsApp and Instagram. That's what they advise. But at what age do
the
kids
reality? And that brings me to the conversation we had before this show of unfortunate events or occurrences where young people, teenagers or youth, are battling, mental health issues, depression, and some get to extreme unfortunate ends because a teenager gets access to a phone where they're on social media, they are watching many things, interacting with many people, sometimes strangers, and they are in that world. And I love that you've pointed out, we love to pick the easier way. So maybe parents will be like, I think giving you a phone will teach you what I would have. It will stand in my place. But it doesn't, because there are so many voices on social media.
Very true.
So many teachers, so many tutors, so many instructors, but not all are instructing in the right way. So this teenager becomes a totally different person from who the parent knows. The parent knows my sweet little daughter, and that makes me so sad. When this was just a great potential, leader, or they were growing in their space, but then now the digital space exposes them to so much more that changes their identity. And I think we will engage you even next month. We will be looking at the topic of youth and identity. And I think the digital space forms so much of our identity right now.
It does.
So this teenager grows up to be a stranger to themselves, to the family, to the parent. Remember, we are at Familia Mtaani Podcast. Sipote. So, and it ends in unfortunate, situations. And the parent is wondering, how comes? This was just a happy child. Hata hakuwa na mambo mingi. I mean, the last time maybe we were talking, she was okay, she was fine, alikuwa amepost pictures, alikuwa on lunch with friends. So this, how do we get to, because we can't eliminate social media at this point. It's with us.
Yeah.
It's with us. Yeah. So we can't say, okay, now we put away, the use of gadgets and all. But how can parents be more involved in their kids' lives so that we're trying to reduce this space, this distance that's being created by, you have your phone, I have my phone, I need my space, you need your space.
Yeah.
How can they still keep in touch with their children's lives?
First is to acknowledge that the digital space is important for this young generation.
Yeah.
It is nowadays it's easy to find older people, boomers, even creating content on TikTok, which previously did not exist.
Yeah.
Because they've realized that it's its own world and it's important in our current reality.
Yeah.
But human beings have a core. We have a spine. We want to be seen.
Yeah.
Whether either you'll do it on social media or physically, but you want to be seen. You want to be heard. You want to know that you matter, that you have value.
Yes.
And at times it's so easy to be unseen in this day and age, right? Where someone may forget your, I don't know, like, again, we may have a conversation. It's easy for me to see you somewhere and pass you and then text you later and tell you it was good to see you. Okay, which doesn't make sense because human connection, there is that warmth that comes with me hearing your voice.
And there's a need. It's a need. It's a human need.
Yeah. So appreciating the fact that there's a lot of possibilities to be alone where people feel, we are disconnected in a connected world, if there is such a thing, right? That we feel we are so connected because it's easy for me to access you by texting, by sending an emoji, but you're disconnected because I have actually not interacted with you as a person in real time to understand your plight. It's very easy for you to ask me how am I, and then I tell you I'm fine. But if you're meeting me face to face, you can actually tell whether it is true or not. But Babu, you sound a bit off today.
That reminds me.
Yes, carry on.
I saw a meme, sorry for cutting you short. Someone was saying your boss or your colleague texting you about something wrong you've done at work, but you add a laughing emoji to reduce the damage. Whatever I'm saying is not very good news, but a laughing emoji reduces the damage.
It creates
something.
And that's the thing, that this digital, you see, the human, I believe that the human brain has struggles between separating illusion and reality, right? So it's very easy to be torn between perception and what is, between imagination and reality. So that line is extremely thin. That's why you can create your own facade and believe in it when it's actually not true, because we're telling ourselves stories now. If a picture is 1,000 words, you can imagine how many pictures you have seen, curated, generated in your head. So how many words are you telling yourself every day over time, right? So you are in that space, and as parents, and I'm calling myself a parent in this regard because I'm in a space where I work with a lot of young people. And where we miss this aspect where the human desire is constant. Things will change, but human desire is constant. So you can have friends fall out because you forgot my birthday, you forgot this, you didn't come for this important event. Yes, you sent me a message that Paul, you've lost your parent, but you didn't come for the funeral, and I thought you were friends. And the message worked, but no, I needed to see you there.
The human connection.
Exactly. So the same thing applies with parents. That parents, in as much as things are demanding, and parents have to catch up, upskill, work extra hours. I don't know, find ways of making money, learn, rest
extra
as well.
Courses.
At times we have this perception that we have to do a lot at once, other than doing little many times. If you have 15 minutes consistently with your parent every day, it is better than 1 hour a month. Right? Haba na haba ujeze kibaba.
Indeed.
So lazima kibaba kitaja, whether upende usipende. So the haba na haba is the work that we have to put in. It can be 10 minutes. And I've seen many, I remember there are questions I picked online and I started asking my parents on WhatsApp. So we have a family group, and I remember asking my parents questions that I think none of us knew as their children. So how did my dad know that my mom is the one for him? What did he love to do? Which sport did he play in high school? Who was his first girlfriend? How did he deal with that? My mother, how did my mother choose from the many suitors she had? What heartbreak experience can she forget? If her mother was still alive, what advice would she give her? And the amount of messages my parents wrote on the WhatsApp group was just phenomenal, right? And at that moment, I saw them as human beings, because you know our parents usually seem to be this perfect superheroes, you know, that don't have any faults, don't have fears. But it's impossible to do that if you're not intentional about it. And for me, my parents are a bit far off, and I guess this happens even when you're in campus. Most of people don't stay with their parents, but you can make it regular. You know, you can have, I know there's a family that consistently will have a call every 2 weeks. It doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, that's their tradition, and they follow it for connection, right? For us, we have an AGM as a family.
AGM.
Where we're supposed to tell each other what good thing did you do, what bad thing did you do. Hakuna mchezo kwa hiyo familia. And these are things that were introduced by us, the kids. Because I realized I know my father, but I saw him, but I didn't know him. I didn't know the man behind. In him. And unfortunately, having attended many funerals, you realize that someone's life is summarized into what, 1 page? 2 pages? At times, 3 paragraphs,
and there
maybe.
is so much.
And there is so much. So I realized it's important for me to feed my curiosity by asking questions.
Wow.
So I started doing that, and it has led to very good connection.
Amazing.
With both parents.
I think we need to benchmark in Babu's family, guys.
Work in progress. Work in progress.
What do you mean? What do you mean you have an AGM?
Yeah, it's something that I realize we have to do, because again, life is temporary.
It is.
And there's a reality that at one moment, one season in our lives, all of us will not be there as a family. So how do we optimize this time where we are all together, right? So when we have time together, let's optimize it. If we can dive deeper, let's do it. Again, using the digital space. So that's, you see now, using WhatsApp to ask questions is an optimization of this space. Right? Because now the questions are available, everyone can read them. The idea was to write a book about it, and God willing, I'm still working on that.
Guys. We will launch it. We'll invite you
for the parents, right? And it's possible, but again, parents have a lot more to do. So other than waiting for that perfect moment, then how do they integrate their normal schedule or their abnormal schedule towards creating time for their kids? And this can be specific 10 minutes where it is a standing meeting for the family. And all of you have to ask questions. What was good about the day? What made you laugh today? It sounds hard, but if the family is important, you'll make time for it.
Amazing. I love that. By trying to optimize, because we said the digital space is here with us, it would be retrogressive to put this away and try to create another world that was existing before. And we're in for more.
Yes, we have no idea what is
more.
Coming.
I mean, I never thought we'd have something like AI, guys. I thought I thought I was born in the best time that we have Google, you know, you have access to mobile data. Kumbe Wi-Fi was waiting for me. AI was waiting for me. So Nabadu.
Yeah.
So I'm loving the optimization approach. And as you're speaking, methali came to mind. At this point, I've been mentioning so many methalis. Guys, I was a gwiji in Kiswahili. Mwalimu wangu wa Kiswahili, mwalimu Alex alifanya kazi nzuri. So methali comes to mind that hata si complex sana. Dawa ya moto ni moto. That we are trying to solve these problems or threats or issues created by digital engagement. But the solution might be in digital engagement.
True, but you see, there's something that I find very fascinating about human behavior. It's like we love blaming things that can't, as is educator,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So what nilifanya usisome ni Instagram. So Instagram will
Instagram nayo
never,
inasemaje?
exactly, it will never have room
Yeah.
to appeal its case and say, but I'm innocent. It is the abuse of the user and not my existence.
I'm the victim.
Yeah, because they say YouTube is a university.
Yeah.
You can choose to learn from it, and at the same time, you can choose to be corrupted by it.
Yes.
So the digital space has been created, and a lot of content has been fed. Some good, some extremely horrible. But the user normally doesn't want to be accountable for their usage, right? So you ask a parent, why is your child behaving in this manner? They will say cocomelon.
Yes.
But no. You granted them access.
You were the first point of...
Yeah. And it's important that as we're having this conversation, we make sure that we go back to the user, because the user plays an active role in the usage of the digital space. Exactly.
The digital space.
Yes. Or else we will point fingers to items or things that will never stand in a court of... Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so easy because normally as human beings you don't want to be seen as a contributor to your own downfall.
Right.
Yeah. But most of the time we do. You know, when you're binge watching, you know, there's a part of you that tells you,
you know,
I should put in a few hours in my studies, but you're like, this is easy. This is easy.
it's the easier way.
So why didn't you study? There's a good show on Netflix. No, you chose not to study. Period. Be accountable for it. Why didn't a parent do ABCD for their kids? There are many reasons to it, but you played an active role.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, then you may actually think of solutions of, again, optimizing the digital space, optimizing your time, optimizing your opportunity to being with your family, optimizing a dinner, optimizing going to the shop, lunch outs, walks, dancing. There's so many things you can do when you realize, okay, I am an active contributor to my well-being, and part of it is beyond me, but most of it is within your control. Yeah. So what exactly will you do with it?
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that we are pointing out 3 things that I've picked.
Yeah.
I am a student, so I have to...
Carry on.
3 things I've picked. One is being intentional, because we're looking at how can the family, on both sides or whatever sides, the parent side, the children side, how can we bridge the gap? Remember, we are talking about the gap that has been created there from the human connection. It's diminishing because we feel we are more connected. And I love that you said we are more connected online, but humanly the connection is reducing.
Yeah, disconnected in
we
a
are
connected
disconnected
world.
in a connected world, you know. And I'm thinking that it's paramount for each contributor of the family and community to be intentional.
Yes.
And you mentioned like sparing some 15 minutes. Methali ingine ikatokea hapo that haba na haba hujaza kibaba. That's some 15 minutes a day. In a month of 30 days, that's 450 hours.
Of active interaction.
Real-time engagement.
Yeah.
And it is so difficult to find these 450 hours. If I say 10 hours
Holiday.
today, you know, holiday. Hiyo 450 hautaipata, hampatani anywhere. So I love that we can be intentional on small daily practices that will, you know, have a build-up. Because it's a build-up. 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes another day, 15 minutes another day. This is a build-up that you can even track the growth.
Yes.
You can track the growth of the people you're relating with in your family. You realize that, by the way, maybe from a parent side or even from a sibling side, because siblings are also parents, especially firstborns. Deputy parent. Shout out to all the firstborns.
Yeah, to make it here, but anyway.
So you can track that there's a change. You can track that maybe it was your younger sibling, they're now into teenagehood, they're now into adolescence, and because there's that intentional conversation, intentional interaction every day, you realize that I think you're becoming shy, or you're drawing into your space. I think you're becoming more, it could even be on the positive side, si lazima ikuwe negative. I think you're becoming more confident. Yeah, I love that you can speak out nowadays, you know. Yeah,
and just connecting the two. You know, there's a concept that James Clear talks about in Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
He calls it habit stacking. So at times it's very hard for human beings to introduce a new concept into their reality. So habit stacking is, of a routine that you already do. Let's say when you get into the house, you will go remove your clothes, take a shower, and then switch up, wear your pajamas. So immediately you have taken a shower, the next thing to do to habit stack would be to have the 15-minute conversation, or immediately walk into the house. Before you put your bag down, then you have to ask everyone in the family how they are, what is their word of the day. Like you habit stack on what works. Now, optimizing AI is you can ask AI, I have this mission, this objective of knowing my family better. Please give me 100 questions that I can ask.
And it will give you
very nice questions. So now you use that and then build on this connection that you want to foster with your family, as a parent. So the habit of habit stacking is okay. Before I wash dishes, before everyone removes their plate from the table, then we must have our 2 questions of the day.
Yes.
So you introduce it to formulas that are already existing, other than trying to create new systems, because again, we are human beings.
Wow.
It will take time for us to adopt into new systems.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And the second one was using even the digital platforms we have to also try and bridge the gap. Because I'm thinking, you mentioned, and I said we are benchmarking your family, that using
work in
progress, we appreciate the progress.
Thank you.
That we can use we don't have to be so far apart. If I have a phone, my parents have phones, my siblings have phones, then let's use this to connect as well, at the very least. At the very least. If we can only afford 10 minutes of real-time conversation, and I'm at work the rest of the day, or I'm in school, parents are at work, and that chance that we get, because I have a phone in school, maybe in uni, my parent at work has their phone. Let me record a voice note that, hey, by the way, Kwaje, I'm having some, rice for lunch, nini. Personally, I appreciate voice notes more than texts, as I said, because
warmth to it.
I feel like hii emoji ni ya kuficha white. As I said earlier, kuna emoji ya destroy the damage. But if I hear your voice, I feel like I can connect with you more. A video call is even on a higher level. And I was recently telling my friends, we were from a scouts event, we were going home, and my mom had tried calling me, but I was not reachable. So the time I switched on my phone, video call, they go like, hey, come down. She's like, hey, uko wapi? Mefika wapi? How was the day? And I felt like she was right here. I'm talking to her. So we can also use the digital space to bridge the digital gap.
Very true.
Talk about meetings. I think COVID period gave us an opportunity to indulge into the digital space even more, especially for corporate engagements or even church engagements. I was mentioning that at that time is when your family had to be the priests of your home. That we have to nani anatuombea leo, nani anasoma Bible leo, because everything else is online. So we can also use like online Zoom meetings, Google Meets, and it's free. You search to Meet, or you have the app on your phone, create a Google Meet, maybe set, as you've mentioned, on intentionality, that as a family, maybe once every 2 weeks, let's have a Google meeting. Na kila mtu awashe video. Tukuone. You tell us, how are you doing? How are you faring on?
Very true.
Talking about AI, over the weekend I was with my friends in a fellowship of Christian unions, and somebody just checked on AI, and we had a series of questions that tell us about your prayer engagements. What did you tell God today morning? And I was like, wow, these questions reached me. Instead of saying, how are you? Fine. They were asking, what did you read today morning? What have you been feeling? Another question is, how is your relation with your classmates? And I'm like, these questions are, man,
profound.
Right? Instead of just saying, how are you? Fine, sawa, and we finish. So that was a good breakdown of the problem, the elephant in the room. So I think I'd like to just throw in a question.
Okay.
If you were to choose, I promise you, I'm not putting you on the hot seat.
You are.
I am not.
It's already hot.
If you were to select a generation to be born in, if you had a choice, what generation would you choose and why? Especially in relation to digital engagement.
and I think I can't get something from all the generations. I
Yeah.
think that's better because all
Yeah.
generations have a lot to offer. I think I appreciate Gen Zs because of the aura and boldness they have. I think
Yeah.
it's just something about it. I have a lot of mentors who are Gen Zs, and they teach me many things. I enjoy boomers, especially in their prime years, because they have some sense of freedom,
Yes.
which many people don't have, where they're not trapped by the opinion of
By
others.
the self-worth.
Even the opinion of others. We see we're in a space where people's opinions really
They
matter.
infringe
But
us.
if for them they can wear their, coat of many colors
Yes.
and just rock it and be at peace, and it's really good to see.
Yeah.
But being a millennial has allowed us to touch two realities at a very vantage point, where you enjoyed your early years as a teenager without a lot of influence to technology or by technology, and you've grown up into the working space learning how to optimize technology.
Yes.
So standing in between has been a gift for those who are willing to work with it, because we understood the value of going outside and playing and connecting with people. We had a lot of advantage in terms of community. I was raised up in Mombasa, and community has always been vital in my reality, where I know I am responsible for everyone around me, and everyone around me is responsible for me. And nowadays it's very easy to find people living with their neighbors and you don't even know
don't
their
know
name.
them. Yes.
Exactly. But then moving now into technology, getting to see that I can have Gen Zs as mentors, I think I am at an advantage as a millennial. So again, I'm not choosing, but I think I have walked this path, so it is easier for me to say that it is it. But I think contextually, each generation has its own gifts, and hopefully they will optimize it. Again, comparison is a thief of joy. As you can tell, I'm avoiding comparison, right? But I'm more keen on embracing the range that is there, and just accepting the fact that here is where I am. I am a millennial, and I will dance to it fully.
Amazing. Wow. I think we have so much that we can discuss, and this makes me ask for a part 2 live in the podcast. But we promise you we'll come back with part 2 on this conversation. Very insightful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Before we leave, thank you for having us. Before you leave, we'd like you to make one confession on your digital engagement. What was the most embarrassing point in your digital engagement that you would like to share, or you would not like to share?
If you would not like to share, why would I share?
No,
it
that you would like to share.
No, I think I would say embarrassing at a personal level. And it's just, I think there are days where I've looked at the amount of time I have spent on my phone, and I'm thinking, how is it possible that I have worked 8 hours today? Because I can tell on the phone I have 8-hour usage. So what exactly was I doing with my time? And with that now, I started having using the digital well-being feature on the phones to lock time. So for example, like right now, I've been off. I'm not on TikTok, but I appreciate it. I am off Instagram. I've been off Instagram for, I think now 2 months, if not 3, because I connected it as a reward, because I realized I enjoyed it a lot. So I told myself, unless I do 1, 2, 3 things, I can't use this platform. So I don't delete the app. The app is actually there. I've just logged out, and now when I do this, I usually have 25 minutes to 30 minutes a day. On that, YouTube is my YouTube takes a lot of my time. But I use it significantly to learn. So I would say other than those, once in a lifetime photos that should never find their space in the digital world, Mongwango, and the digital world never forgets.
It never forgets.
It never forgets. Other than that, I think for me was just, usage, I would say abuse of it. And I thought, I should have the capacity to deal with it, but I realized, and with that now I extend grace when I see people using it. So I'm just trying to find ways of dealing with it myself, and also learning how to, again, practice what I preach. So spend more time talking to people, spend more time connecting, taking days off, days not really, hours off the phone.
Yeah.
Days not upon exaggerate, ni ngumu.
Yeah.
But hours of the phone just to go for a run,
Yeah.
go for a walk. Without it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I identified the problem. I'm still working on it.
Mm-hmm.
We've made progress, but we're not yet where we can be.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I appreciate your honesty and your genuine sharing and your generosity in sharing so much on what you do, because parenting is also one thing we mentioned in the month of February in a host talk show, is that especially for the youth, you're a point of parenting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So parenting, see to your parents. Okay. There's also you telling yourself, hey, by the way, simu ni kama nitaeka chini.
Yeah.
Because especially we were talking about, we have always been on the receiving end of parenting.
Yeah.
But now, being a youth, you're in the transitioning phase, that you're now parenting yourself.
Higher sense of self-responsibility.
And you will eventually now get to parent others, even in leadership. You know, it's not just maybe on the biological parenting.
Yeah.
There's so much parenting in leadership, in people you deal with, in your desk mates. You might find yourself taking so much from what your neighbor does, your friend does. Yeah. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
And I think you have been a parent. For you to even be a babu, you've been a parent to a parent. Anyway,
grandfather, indeed.
Indeed. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Most welcome.
And to our viewers, thank you for sitting in for the conversation. I told you we had tea. I hope the tea was tea.
Well,
and we have more tea coming up in part 2 of this episode. Apart from that, please like, share, subscribe. Share this with your parents, with your family, relatives, everyone. And like the video, subscribe to the channel, engage. Comments. Tell us what you think. Sindo? Kama tumesema stories za jaba mahali, tell us.
Please do.
Yeah, and we will appreciate your engagement. We're also on Spotify as Familia Mtaani Podcast. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook as E-Msingi. And we love that you are our audience. So until next time, bye.
Adios.